As the Russian military are also located in Belarus, the department of the Investigative Committee of Russia will also work in Belarus. This is the logic of the Kremlin. According to lawyers, this is a bad sign for Minsk, primarily because it is, at a minimum, illegal. After all, the army, justice, territory, language and border all are parts of the country's sovereignty. By law, Russia must send requests for assistance to its Belarusian counterparts, and only they have the right to conduct investigative activities on the territory of Belarus. And the stated objectives clearly do not correspond to reality, experts say.
Here we are talking about what the Russian Investigative Committee calls the investigation of war crimes by the Ukrainian army. In fact, it is falsification of war crimes cases by the Russian Investigative Committee. They want to do everything themselves, so that everything is falsified exactly the way they want it. Mikhail Kirilluk, advisor on legal issues of the National Anti-Crisis Management, in an interview with Euroradio.
The establishment of the Russian Investigative Committee on the territory of Belarus is another clear symptom of the loss of subjectivity of Belarus, political analysts emphasize.
I think they will have other functions, first of all to pursue and identify the Belarusian underground. They can come in from this side as part of Russia's war against Ukraine. And then, how is this? Ask them to go back? I don't quite understand what powers they would have in principle on the territory of Belarus. Don't we have our own investigative committee? Will they have the right to investigate and make arrests?
In addition to the actual integration of the security departments of the two states, there is an even more serious signal of the loss of the Belarus subjectivity. Moscow has allegedly already handed over a part of its nuclear arsenal to Minsk. This was announced by the president of Russia. According to experts, the Kremlin's actions actually consolidate Russia's military control over Belarus.
Для ответственного лица
For a responsible person, for a person who should be responsible for the fate of the people, well, this is just irresponsible and hooliganism. And statements regarding just try to sneak in here, I'll show you a nuclear hell. Or does he think that this is his way of justifying his subjectivity or his autonomy from Russia? But who would believe it? The question is, why is he doing this? So desperate a situation.
The fact of the transfer of Russian tactical nuclear weapons to Belarus has not yet been confirmed.
We'll continue to monitor the situation very closely and very carefully. We have no reason to adjust our own nuclear posture. We don't see any indications that Russia is preparing to use a nuclear weapon. And as for Belarus itself, this is just another example of Lukashenko making irresponsible, provocative choices to cede control of Belarus's sovereignty against the will of the Belarusian people.
Earlier, the Dossier Center published a report, Russia's strategic goals in the Belarusian direction. 11 other media outlets from Europe and the United States received the document from an unknown source. It describes the Kremlin strategy to take over Belarus. By 2030, Moscow intends to complete the reform of the constitution of Belarus, taking into account Russian interests, and to introduce a simplified procedure for issuing Russian citizenship to Belarusians. Reported by Roman Smoler, Christina Dombrovska, UA TV News.